Deputy Speaker, I rise to make a contribution in support of the Legislative Assembly's Environment and Planning Committees securing the Victorian Food Supply Report that was tabled in Parliament in November 24. Deputy Speaker, it's highlighted by this report, securing the Victorian food supply is an existential issue for our state now and into the future. As Victoria's population continues to grow, the impact of urban sprawl in Melbourne and regional cities is impacting our food producers and farming industry. But it's also the increasing demand on food, the cost of living and access to fresh, healthy and affordable food for many across our community, including mine, particularly from vulnerable socioeconomic cohorts, that we must continue to remain focused on supporting. That's why I commend the work of the committee, which highlighted a number of ongoing priorities for government to consider when it comes to food policy, and include securing Victoria's food supply by continuing to support our state's critically important local agriculture sector as both drivers of economic, employment and social equity outcomes, protecting agricultural land, regions and peri-urban areas, particularly in the context of urban growth and population sprawl, and via working to foster a more resilient food system, especially in the context of geopolitical developments, economic and cost of living shocks, biosecurity events and climate change. The committee put forward 29 findings and 33 recommendations, which I'm glad to hear from the member for Wendouree the government's recently responded to and supporting. And it's recommendations 1, 2 and 33 that I particularly draw the House's attention to. Recommendation 1 being that the Victorian Government develop a whole-of-government Victorian Food System Strategy. The strategy must address the food system as a whole, including agriculture, processing, manufacturing, supply and consumption, and it should be centred on access to adequate, nutritious and food as a human right and as a determinant of health. Recommendation 2, the Victorian Government consider establishing a Minister for Food with responsibility for the Victorian food system in its entirety, and the Minister should coordinate the development and implementation of the Victorian Food System Strategy, and the Government should also establish a Food System Council to support the Minister for Food to coordinate the development and implementation of the strategy. And recommendation 33, that the Victorian Government support community food initiatives which enhance productivity or resilience of Victoria's food supply at the local level, and it should consider supporting the implementation of a local and state government food strategies, including community food enterprises, urban agriculture projects, co-ops, school farms, crop swaps, farmers markets and much more. And it should also prioritise communities with few alternative food sources to the major supermarkets. And Deputy Speaker, this outstanding report also complements the work, of course, of the Legislative Council's Legal and Social Issues Committees reporting to food security in Victoria, also tabled in November 24, which identified, according to the Victorian Population Health Survey, at least 8% of Victorians experience severe food insecurity as of 2022. A further 41% of Victorians were reported to be worried about food insecurity with hunger since 2014. As of 2023's Hunger Report, 35% of households experienced some levels of moderate to severe food insecurity. Food security is closely linked, the report identified, with poor mental health, chronic stress, anxiety and depression. Particularly cohorts that are vulnerable to food insecurity include young people, low-income groups, First Nations people and culturally linguistically diverse communities. And in severe cases of food insecurity, households have been reported and forced to make difficult choices between basic necessities such as food, housing and healthcare, and nearly 30% of food is wasted across the entire food supply chain. And that's why, Deputy Speaker, along with progressing the recommendations of these respective parliamentary reports, also draw the House's attention to the magnificent work being undertaken across my community of Pascoe Vale, Coburg and Brunswick West when it comes to food relief services. Our Victorian Government's free school breakfast program is being rolled out across a number of local schools, providing free, healthy breakfast for students. And I recently had the chance to pop in and support Pascoe Vale Girls College's program with Principal Kate Peddle and I serving up healthy breakfast and making 800 hot chocolates for students that morning. Our presentation of our Lord Greek Orthodox Parish in Coburg has been proudly running the Our Daily Bread food relief program. Originally envisaged in 2011, it provides an increasingly number of services supporting thousands of marginalised people every week through food relief, meal relief, outreach support and addiction programs. Parish priest Father Leonidis Yandu and coordinator Sophie Koutalis and the dozens of volunteers do an amazing job in supporting thousands of people over the year and every week, and we can do more by supporting their application to the Community Food Relief Grant Program, which I encourage the Minister for Agriculture to favourably consider. We also have the magnificent Hope Street Cafe, first established in 2011, operates every Thursday from St Mark's Parish in Coburg, North and Fawkner, offers a restaurant-style dignified dining experience for disadvantaged community members, serving at least 50+ hot meals and food hampers every week. And I commend the volunteers Maria Costanzo and Marilyn Duchaney for their work. We also have the Salvation Army in Coburg North, Sydney Road, every Tuesday and Friday doing community breakfast to support those marginalised, lonely or in need of support. And thank you to Melanie Lamb, Steph Glover and the many other volunteers who helped that program. The Reynard Street Neighbourhood House also does a great job.
The member for Ringwood.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. And I rise this morning to make a contribution on the PAYAC report from the 2024-2025